Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 200, y'all, featuring my friend, Vernon Mason. Man, oh man, oh man. How did we get here? Episode 200 might not sound like a lot, but I've been podcasting for the last 8+ years. I started in September of 2017, so I guess we're not quite up to the 8-year mark in podcast land. So many more podcasts are in the world today than were at that time, but we are still going strong, y'all. Here at Childcare Rockstar Radio, I am Kris Murray, your host, and doing some reflection over the past 200 episodes of where did we start with this thing and how far we've come. So it's been a very cool journey. Episode 1 is the beauty of persistence, with just me talking about what I find to be most inspiring as an entrepreneur. And here we are at episode 200. I've only got one guest who's made 3 appearances on the podcast, and that happens to be none other than Mr. Vernon Mason, who you will soon meet here on this episode. If you don't know Vernon, you're in for a treat. And many of you have come back to this episode, I am sure, to get the latest and greatest from Mr. Vernon. He's also featured on episodes 73 and 111. So if you need more Vernon, that's where you should go. And we're going to dive right in. In this episode, Every Day is a Gift, we talk about so much, what's going on in the industry right now here in 2025, what we're facing as childcare providers, leaders, and owners, and talking about turnover, talking about team accountability, talking about the impact of universal pre-K and funding, talking about toxic positivity, a term that I was not familiar with before Vernon talked about it on this episode. It was very interesting. Thinking about leaders who we've been told we need to be positive, right? Be positive, be positive. Don't be a negative Nelly. Don't be an Eeyore, be a Tigger. You've heard me say that before, but I didn't realize that a lot of folks, after getting that message so many times, feel like they have to fake it till they make it on positivity. Toxic positivity is not authentic. It's not real. So we share ideas and thoughts around this notion here on the podcast today. And gratitude, deep, deep gratitude from both Vernon and myself, having been speakers, authors, and trainers, and entrepreneurs in this field together, really being grateful now that we are in our 50s and for some of us approaching the ripe old age of 60. I'm not naming any names there. Me, no, I still have about 1.5 years left. But yeah, as you get older, the wisdom gets deeper, the experiences get more plentiful, and one has a deeper sense of gratitude and appreciation, deep appreciation for the journey. And so we talk about that. It is May 2025 here if you're listening to this live. And I have a good summer coming up. I am doing something on my bucket list. Of course, you guys know me. I'm a bucket list queen. And I try to hit at least 3 things on my bucket list or in my dreams book, my dream journal each year. And usually I hit 4 or 5 or more. In coming up here in June for me is the bucket list item of rafting the Middle Fork of the Salmon River in Idaho. I was told when I went on the Grand Canyon in 2020 and did a 14-day overnight rafting trip with my kids in July of 2020 that the guides told me that I would love the Middle Fork of the Salmon. It's only a 6-nighter, 6 nights overnight. It's a little bit more luxurious. They actually bring cots for us, so we don't have to sleep on the ground. And there are naturally occurring hot springs along the side of the river, supposedly. So in the evenings, we will camp, hopefully near some hot springs, and we can kind of like spa our way, natural spa, through the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. So I will let you know when I get back how the experience was and if it's a must do. I'm going with my boyfriend, Kris, and we're both just over the moon excited. And he's a big outdoorsman. We've skied a lot together this past season. I had a personal record of 23 ski days. And I haven't had that many ski days since I was in my 20s. So when you're a working girl, it's hard to get the ski days in. So I'll just share that. So without any further ado, we're going to get to Vernon. And I just want to thank you for being with me all these episodes. If you're a diehard fan, thank you for making the podcast what it is. I couldn't do it without you. And I'm very grateful and appreciative of your time and that you've been on this journey with me. And please feel free to reach out. I always say this. Very few of you do. I really enjoy receiving mail, and it's Kris at childcaresuccess.com. Kris with a K. Well, let's dive in to episode 200, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's meet Vernon Mason and go have some fun. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is a special one. This is episode 200, and I have a special guest with me today to celebrate the 200th episode, Vernon Mason. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to always honored to spend time with you, and always honored to share some little nuggets of what our people need to know.
That's it. Yeah. So you're the only person, Vernon, that's been on the podcast thrice. If you guys want to go back and listen to the other episodes, we have episode 73 and 111 with Vernon. And here we are at 200. So here we are in 2025. Where are you right now? Where are you located? Where are you
I'm at home. I live in eastern North Carolina, about 2 hours from the coast. We have a little beach house that we go to every weekend. We're about 4 hours from the mountains. You know, we've had a lot of devastation in our mountains in the last year. We got hit by a hurricane, but we had no damage around here. We were perfectly fine. It was the western part of the state.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad to hear that. For the two people listening that don't know who you are, give us some highlights of your journey, a quick bio, if you will, of some things that you'd like to share with the audience.
Well, I don't know who to, I often say it's you, and I'm not 100% sure it's you. Somebody started referring to me as the trifecta of childcare because I was raised in an in-home center. We opened up our first small, then we went to medium, then went to, of course, I was owner director. Then I became owner of a multi-site chain of 5 childcare programs.
Yeah.
I sold in 2019 and have been out doing professional development and speaking for childcare owners and companies across the country. I bring inspiration, information, and normally leave with a slight kick in the butt for them when I leave. For all of us to learn and grow and be better, do better, be better.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was not me that named you the trifecta of childcare. I feel like you're the quadrifecta or the centrifecta, whatever that is. But yes, there's lots of hats that you've worn, essentially.
Yeah.
And all beautifully. And so thank you for having such a huge impact on the industry. And so you've been, I mean, really, you were raised in it. So really for most of the decades of your entire life, you've been in it,
Oh,
which is
100%.
amazing.
My mom in my book, right there, Don't Waste a Crisis. I talk about that. It's a personal story. It's a business story. And I talk about that my mom had a 10th grade education. She decided to get married. She didn't want to live on the farm anymore. She never went back and completed her high school education. But she was really found that she really had a talent with children. And so the whole time growing up, to help keep a roof over her head, she kept children in our home. And that's how it all began. I graduated from college and we took a Citibank credit card. They're not paying me to say that, but anyway, we took a Citibank credit card with a $5,000 credit card limit and we opened our first location. We just jumped from there. My
Yeah.
mom, mom stayed in the classroom. We found she was so much better with the kids than she was with the adults, right? The parents would come to her and say, "Oh, Miss Nancy, I can't pay you this week. I spent much money at the grocery store." And she'd say, "Oh, honey, just pay me when you get it." Right? That doesn't work in childcare. Yeah. So I had to go to my
Right.
mom and say, "The next time you tell somebody I'm going to pay you, they're going to pay. It's okay to pay when they get it. I'm going to pay you when I get it." And she never ever said that to anybody again. From that point on, she would say, "I don't handle the finances. You have to talk to Mr. Vernon about that." So we figured out our guardrails there.
Yes, you had your lanes
Yes.
defined right at that moment, and that's fantastic. I love that.
Mhm.
So you grew to 5
Yeah.
locations and then sold in 2019.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Um, so I know you've got a lot of stories about people on your team, people that you had to let go, families that were very interesting and, special, that you've worked with over the years. But I love your book, Don't Waste a Crisis. So some of the stories and leadership journey pieces are in that book. So if y'all haven't picked that book up, definitely get a copy of that. Can people get it on Amazon or where do they find it?
Absolutely, and I also want to thank your people, Kris. It was a village to say the least. I was shocked when it started climbing the charts, right? And I kept getting these emails. You're at this, and we hit number one on Amazon in the self-employment category. I was absolutely shocked that I did that because I don't have people. People will often reach out to me and say, "Can you have your people reach out?" I am my people, right? So I don't I don't have a marketing team or
Right.
any of that.
Yeah.
So I was so impressed that it organically, it did that, on its own, and I've been very touched by the emails and the, Facebook Messenger, messages I've received from people that, different parts of it touch different people, and it's been, I would say, cathartic in some ways, and just, heartwarming in many ways.
hmm hmm Yeah, I mean, when I met you, Vernon, I believe it was the first Childcare Success Summit in 2012 in Denver in that little crappy Red Lion hotel. And to see you talk about, you were actually on microphone, captured on video during that event, that summit, that first summit, talking about that you had a desire and you're making a commitment to write your book or finish your book. And so, having been part of that very first
Mhm.
stake that you said, yes, I'm doing this, and you started really living bigger, you showed up in a bigger way, you became a full fledged speaker, or maybe went from more of a regional speaker to a national stage speaker. You came to the summit, you spoke on the main stage twice, I believe, 2 or 3 times over the last 15 years. And it's been amazing to be a part of your journey and your impact. And so I just want to ask you, like, and you're going to continue making an impact, but looking back at the impact that you've made or stepping into the bigger version of Vernon,
Mhm.
what what are some reflections about that? How do you feel about putting on your big boy pants or anything you can share about just playing a bigger game?
Well, the thing that I say is, we don't have a dress rehearsal. This is the real show here, right? There's no do-overs, right? That this is the life we've been given. And I want to make an impact. I want to be the best person that I can be. And I've never professed to be the smartest person in the room, right? I've never been that person that, oh, you have to do it my way. You have to, I've just been that person that wants to add some knowledge and some levity to the situation, and realize that we're not perfect. And something that struck me recently is that phrase that you've heard people say many times, and that is not to worry about what people are thinking about you, because they think about you a lot less than you think they do.
Mhm. So you sent me a note saying that you saw in the news, maybe it was a stat from the Labor Department, that you heard turnover is slowing, or people are job shopping less, or
Yeah.
labor is starting to stabilize in a certain way. So talk more about that, and how can we see some light at the end of this tunnel with regard to employment trends?
Yeah, so when I'm out in the field and I'm talking to owners and directors, most of them are finding that their turnover is slowing, right? And the labor department, like you said, we figured out that they have their stats are showing that we're now back at the pre-pandemic levels with the lowest quit rate. So people aren't, like you said, they're not job hopping. It's like an 11% drop of where we were. So what does that mean? It means that during the pandemic, for every job opening, there were for every two jobs, there was one person looking for a job. Meaning, even if everybody out there got a job looking for it, we'd still have
Right.
a lot of job openings.
Yep.
And so now it's almost even for every one. It's like 1.1 for every 1.1 person job opening. There's one person looking.
Looking. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So what does that mean for us in our industry? It means that we've got to step out of this working in a crisis, right? I think that we're dealing with some PTSD. I think some directors and some owners can't move past the living, surviving, working through a crisis, because we really have to go into more of a leadership um, role. And
Mhm.
where I've been focusing my time lately, what does that mean? Is the areas that I'm hearing a lot of people struggle with is holding their staff accountable. They're still struggling with holding their team accountable. They're scared to hold them accountable. They think they're going to fly. They think they're going to just, ghost them and not come back. I hear this a lot. They're dealing with an entitlement that people are just, they feel very, very entitled. And one
Mhm.
thing that I'm noticing that goes on a lot in our industry is this toxic positivity, where they just roam around telling everybody, good job, good job, good job, whatever. And so I thought maybe, we could talk about some of these areas today
Yes.
during our call. And, I always start with my first place is, stop being the fixer, right? We often become in a leadership role in our industry because we're able to fix things, because we are
Mhm.
that fixer. But what we're good at sometimes, it sets ourselves up. I believe being the fixer is one of the main drivers of being overwhelmed, because nothing moves, nothing changes, nothing gets better, nothing is done without first coming to us, coming to the
Mhm.
director, coming to the owner. And so I think that's a main driver of that. And when you're trying to hold people accountable, I love quoting Stephen Covey. He says, accountability breeds responsibility. And then my favorite part of the quote is this: accountability without a relationship is viewed as harassment.
Mm.
Now, to me, it's a meaningful quote, because I can remember years ago, I had an employee, and her name was April. I'll just use her name. And we didn't have, she was a good employee. She was always there. She always did. Parents were always happy that she was there. But she and I, this is when I was owner director, she and I, we didn't have an ongoing, hey, have a good day. Good morning. Right. That was the extent of it. I didn't take time to have conversations with her, whatever. I
Mhm.
took her for granted. And I
Mhm.
remember having an unusual situation that a parent came and complained about something. And I went down literally just to talk to her about it, not to reprimand her, just to have a conversation, just kind of on an information gathering mission here. And she just went into meltdown mode, and
Wow.
realized when I read that email, I said, that's exactly what happened with she and I. We didn't have a relationship, and she viewed me trying to hold her accountable as harassment. And I never thought about it in a different way from that point on. I realized, okay, in
Mhm.
order, if you really want to hold these people accountable, you've got to have some kind of relationship. And accountability was who is it that says that? Like um, the what's that guy's name? I can't think of his name. John Maxwell. How can I forget John Maxwell's name? Right.
I mean,
He says people change for four reasons. You've heard this before. They heard enough that they have to, they see enough, they're inspired to, they learn enough that they want to, and they receive enough that they're able to. And so that all it all works together into holding people accountable, realizing that we have to build a relationship with these people in order to
yes.
them accountable. So many
Mhm.
directors, they like to direct from the office. They like to direct from the director's desk.
Chair. Yes, the
Yeah.
desk.
It just doesn't work, right? I always say caring by walking around, right? Going around, interacting with people, having good conversations, um, and keeping people enthusiastic, right? Encouraging them by walking around, because your people will never be more enthusiastic than the leadership, right? So going out there and really giving them the feedback they need so you can have that responsibility so that they'll want to perform for you, and then you can hold them accountable because you have developed a
A
rapport
relation.
relationship
Right.
with them. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. No, I love that. There's a lot to unpack in there, Vernon. What you talked about in the beginning about being in crisis mode and being in PTSD from the crises that we've been hit with from 2020 to post COVID to, all the labor challenges, having to increase our wage scales.
Mhm.
Now we're facing, because we have all these increased wage scales, facing an extremely low profit margin. Sometimes if then we've got a little bit of a low enrollment dip going on. And so if you're sitting at 65 or 70% full, which a lot of folks are, because they forgot their marketing. So we could talk about that too. But so now you've basically a scarcity mindset, because we're going, well, maybe we can get our labor back, but now we're trying to really dive back into a crisis around enrollment. And we've got the universal pre-K as well, et cetera, et cetera. So I do feel that it's like one crisis after another. And so people, like leaders and owners, a lot of them are walking away from the industry right now, or just feeling like they want to. And I think hiding, they're like in their little bomb shelter going, what's next? Like I'm scared to even stick my head out. But I think it's a mindset. Like, I just want to say, in terms of that fixer mindset, is if you've been fixing for the last 5 years and you're exhausted, you've got to break free from that fixer or that fear-based leadership mindset. You've got to really look at yourself in the mirror and try to feed yourself with positive messages, books, podcasts, or things, industry groups, trying to get back to that place of positive mindset leadership. I want to ask you about toxic positivity. I've never heard that phrase till you said it, toxic positivity. But what's the difference between toxic positivity and then walking around and doing leadership by walking around and going around and, managing classrooms effectively? Like, what's the difference there? So if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. The difference is being specific. It would like someone telling you, Kris, your podcast is fun. Okay. Or
Mm-hmm.
Kris, I really like the way you and Vernon dug deep. I really like the way you asked the best questions and got the best answers. It would be the exact same way in the classroom, not telling somebody, good job. It would say, specifically whatever they did. I really like the way you handled Johnny when he was crying. I thought you did all the steps, you knocked it out of the park. We could have um, recorded a video training on how
Mm.
to handle a child who's having a meltdown, right? That kind of specific.
Specificity. Nice.
That's the
I'll
word.
help you. I'll help you
That's
out,
the
honey.
word. and I'm not even having wine, but anyway, yeah, that's we've got to be
Yeah.
very specific. And when things aren't great, we don't say things are great, right? We
Mhm.
just get in that childcare a little Mr. Rogers bubble of trying to spread the positivity when there's really, you've got to deal with what's handed in front of you and
Mhm.
point out because as I learned from Becky Bailey. She was one of my college professors in college.
Wow.
I love to tell people that I knew Becky Bailey before she was Becky Bailey. But
Yeah.
whatever you focus on most, you get more of, right? And that's a phrase that I live by, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Um, uh, the accountability piece, a lot of directors still really struggle with it. And you talked about it in terms of having a relationship. Um, what are some other tools, things that people can use to try to help them with accountability? Of course, we've talked a lot about scorecards, tracking simple things. You can track things in the classroom. You can track family turnover in the classroom. You can track lesson plans on time. But what are some strategies that you've used or that you teach for accountability?
Well, first of all, you got to make sure they have some buy-in, right? That they want this to work. The other thing I would say is teaching can be seen as an art. Um, we need to appreciate people's strengths. Stop trying to make people somebody that they're not, right? You're going to
Mm,
have somebody that's really good with art, where they're going to do art longer during the day than the other class, right? You're going to have people who love to go outside. They're a PE teacher deep down. They're going to be outside longer than the day. So going where people are instead of expecting the same thing out of everybody and grading everybody on the same scale, grading people where they are and just grading that they get better, right? From where they are rather than, well, she's a C, she's never going to be the A, but she's better, right? She's a C plus or a B now. Let's reward that. Let's praise that. Let's acknowledge that in a specific manner rather than, well, she's still not an A, so we're not going to even acknowledge the growth that has happened there.
mhm. So another piece of the crisis that let's talk a little bit about the financial piece. So with state funding, with the grants that and the things that the uh, America Rescue Act that Biden passed, and all of the money that started flowing into childcare industry, but has since a lot of it has dried up. And people, leaders and owners went into this shock because a lot of them spent that money and didn't really apply fiscal prudence to their situation. Again, having to raise all the wage scales. And so the labor costs went up. And so a lot of that money is gone. So we don't know the future because now we're in a different political season, right? With a new regime at the White House. So how are you helping people prepare for what is the unknown in the future? If we lose funding, or if the flavor of funding changes in some big shift, how can we prepare and survive?
You know, the first thing I'll say is I'll have to acknowledge there is a portion of our industry that can't survive without government funding. The people providing care in low income areas that literally live and breathe off subsidies and off the food program and things like
Yep.
that. It's going to be really, really, really difficult for them. But I would say the most of the bigger part of the market or the more mainstream part of the market out there is to get your house in order where you are, right? You can't keep spending like it's coming, right? I talked to an owner a couple weeks ago that this was when we were all went under that fear that the funding was going to be frozen, right? When they first of all when they started freezing the funds and everybody was like every state was interpreting it differently. Some states were immediately putting lockdown. Some states even stopped paying providers like right then, right? They're not paying them until they figure this out.
Yep.
Um, but the real situation here is the owner said, "Well, I'm going to. How are you going to fix it?" They said, "I'm going to go get equity line of money." And I said, "And how are you going to use that?" Well, number one, the time you want to get an equity line, time you want to get a line of credit is when you don't need it, right? That's
Right.
just anybody out there who's running a business. First thing you do, don't wait till you're in a crisis to go and then ask. Get it now while things are good, right?
Yes.
But my concern was, I said, "What are you gonna do with that?" She said, "Well, I'm gonna pay our bills until the funding kicks back in." I said, "What if it doesn't kick back in? Then how are you gonna pay that money back?" I think some of us are gonna have some real a hard reality check because we're just assuming it's gonna work itself out. And I know we've gotta be optimistic. I know we've gotta be hopeful, but we've gotta have a plan B. How do we move forward in the event? That phrase, one of my favorite quotes is from Ronald Reagan. It says, "Was it one of the scariest things anyone ever will say is I'm from the government. I'm here to help." Right? That's one of my favorite quotes because we depend on the government. We think they're going to, and they may not pull us out. They may
Right.
do this new reign, regime, whoever, whatever you, however you want.
Yeah.
It may change where we are. So we've got to figure out where we are and what's going forward. And it may mean making really quick snap changes that are going to just curve our spending like we've hit a wall, right? So that
Hmm.
you can move forward. Because the thought of someone bailing us out, I just not sure that's going to happen this time.
Hmm. So, yeah, it's a good message to be thinking about plan B. And certainly, you guys all should have a business line of credit already lined up. The best way to do that is to get a local banking relationship, and talk to your banker and get your business line of credit set up, which usually for a seven-figure business can be between 100 and $200,000 or more. So that's a really good safety net. But to your point, Vernon, is yeah, we've got to start thinking differently. One of the things that we've taught for a long time is just how to attract more private pay clients, whether you're in a subsidy market or not. Having a program, a marketing strategy for how to put your message out there in front of private pay parents. A coach on my team, Coach Jay, she's got a school with 99.9% subsidy and two private pay moms that drive 20 miles to drop their kids. It's a woman that discovered her on social media and loved what she stood for, and is a private pay client that drives 20 miles out of her way to bring her child to that school. And she got her neighbor
Mhm.
to come and as well. And they also bring stuff for the other families, and they do lots of good work for the families that need it. And they just, it's just like a little angel that came to her school. But you can market intentionally and find more people that want to be part of your vision. They want to be part of a program that is also serving underserved families and be part of that impact. It's all
Right.
goes back to impact. So I think just mindset, people might think I can't do that, but I wanted to share that story because you can do that. And that's in inner city Atlanta that's happening
Yeah.
right now. So, and you're no stranger to subsidy. Some of your schools were in kind of rural
Yeah.
North Carolina. I don't know if you have any stories like that and any strategies that you use to try to build your private pay clientele and rely less on subsidy.
Well, we would reward those that would come in because the people you want to enroll know people the people you're targeting know people like them, right? So targeting them and giving them incentives to bring their friends and
Hmm.
family and
Yeah. So a parent referral reward program.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Cool.
And just running the program, so that the other, parents would feel families would feel comfortable or would come in there and it not looking different or feeling different, having expectations and treating them all in a manner so that it's not a culture, shift at all.
Yeah. Well, here in 2025, um, I have shifted out of running the day to day. And I don't know if are you still in leadership at the Nest? Talk a little bit about that.
I
What's going
am.
on?
Yeah, 4 years we've been at the Nest. Jane, Porterfield, Jerry Pastor. They we met through you, through we were in coaching with you, and they sold about 3 months after I sold in 2019.
Hmm.
A year later, they decided they weren't done. They wanted to go back in the industry. They called and harassed me and offered me to join. So I joined them. And so I handled the development. So I'm the ones out finding our new locations and negotiating the deals, etc. And we've grown from the first person we brought on board was Rochelle Kiner, who we also met through coaching with you, and she had
Hmm.
5 schools in Columbus, Ohio. She came on board, and Rochelle's amazing. She handles our maintenance and new builds, and just she's
Wow.
smart cookie. Really
Yeah.
working with Rochelle. So we're at 52 locations. We have
Wow.
3 or 4 more coming on this year, and so we've grown to that many locations in 4 years. So we're looking to probably double that, maybe, is the plan, I think, where we'll be going. We did get an infusion of with some private equity money uh,
Okay.
about a year and a half ago, and that relationship has gone fine. Um, and Yeah, it's interesting. It is a new world out there. It is interesting because I was so used to having very intimate relationships with my leadership, and when you have 52 locations, that is challenging to do. And there's this whole, and I don't even want to try to explain it because I'm going to tear the language up, but there's this whole realization that we can't have these deep relationships with that many people, that we all have these little bubbles. I think it starts with like 5 and then grows to 10, and they're not quite as good as the 5 and then the 15, right? And so, yeah, so that's been another whole area that I've been thinking about lately, is how you develop these relationships and maintain these relationships when it really is impossible to develop very close, tight relationships to 50
Hmm.
leaders.
Right. I mean, I suppose you could do, I'm sure you all do leadership Zoom calls, but even that with, consistent leadership meetings with 52 people on a Zoom is still really difficult to try to, I mean, you can break people out and do like fun things but yeah, it's challenging. The scaling part in childcare to try to maintain that culture of what you had at 3 or 4 or 5 locations and then scale it to 52. It's a whole new world, but I love watching what you guys are doing and being part of your early formation of your relationship with you and Jerry and Jane and Rochelle and others is that's very, very cool and rewarding
Yeah,
for me to watch. And wow, 100 schools. Like, I'm just surprised that you don't have more gray hair, Vernon. I mean, that's crazy.
yeah. Well, the blessing here is that I don't handle operations. We have a wonderful person, Haley, that handles our operations, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, after been in the industry now, I'm frightening to say, I think 32 years, right? And
Yeah.
so the operations is not somewhere I want to be right now. It's
Right.
Yeah. So I
But you're
I love I love the fun part. The fun part is out looking for them, negotiating deals with owners who want to sell, and send them on there with their little golden parachute, or however it works out. And
right.
I'm doing. I consider myself having the fun job.
Well, that's fantastic. And if you're an owner listening to this and you would like to explore potentially selling, I know that the Nest has a certain criteria that they're looking for, but Jerry did hit me up a few months ago and say, "Hey, can you help us find more people that want to sell?" So I'll just throw that out there here on the podcast. And you guys can reach out to Vernon. What else is on the horizon for you? I know that you're still out speaking and helping centers, boots on the ground, and inspiring their teams. What
I
else?
was,
What else is going on for you this year? Anything
uh,
else you want to share?
yeah. No, I think it just normal, just wanting things to calm and be find a nice pattern, a nice system, and just enjoying myself.
Yes.
Trying to be present where I am and remain grateful. I've had a couple health issues in the last couple of years, and I'm doing great, and I'm doing fine. But it's reminds me.
Mhm.
Every day is a gift. Um,
Yes.
and So trying to be present, and enjoy the time where I am and who I'm with. Because, Chris, my brain, like so many entrepreneurs, is moving so fast. I'm having a conversation here, but my brain has already moved on to the next conversation, who I'm talking to next, what it's gonna be about. I say I have too many tabs open, like, on the computer, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to just bring it in and
Be present.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I was going down the road of mentioning that when I said I had stepped aside from being a CEO and I am still active in leadership in different companies and doing my own thing in coaching. And of course, loving being this podcast host. But to your point, you and I both have slowed down. We have worked a ton. We are at a season in our life where we have every right to go sit our butt on a beach if we want to and being present. So the thing about presence is it helps you reduce stress and not feel overwhelmed if you are just present for what you are sitting here doing at this moment and not thinking about not having those tabs open and having a practice of shutting down the tabs. It can change your life because your energy all of a sudden, so much energy is spent on what I got to go do, my to do list, and all the stuff that I just did. And what did they think about me when I was doing that? And if you can just kind of come into this practice of trying to practice presence a little bit more. So I just love to hear you bring that up because to me, presence is everything. Like it's, it, we only have this moment.
Yeah.
So we got to just juice it up and just like be here for it. So,
When I'm out, doing professional development days, one of the most popular topics I talk on, I call controlled chaos. It's classroom management. And the struggle is getting the teachers to be present in the classroom because teachers come in historically, statistically, many teachers are lower income. So they have some trials and tribulations, and it's really hard. It's really easy to say,
mhm.
let that stay outside your classroom and come in and be the best teacher in the world. But that's really hard when you can't pay your utility bill or you think your car's going to get repossessed
Yes,
or somebody who means something to you is doing something or not doing something, whatever. Right? But this is what I tell them. When you let your classroom be your safe place, when you engage with these children, when you know what Bobby is cooking in dramatic play in the kitchen area, when you're on the floor helping Sally build a stable for her horse, or if you're in the art area painting with Ariel, right? When you're that engaged and you're that present, you can't worry. Your brain won't worry. Your brain won't worry about what's going on the outside. And it's such a way of an example of how you really can physically be present and so you can give the children what they need but it's also not just for the kids, it's also for those caregivers out there who need to be present where they are, because
mhm,
it'll make their day go by so much faster, so much more pleasant, so much more positive. They'll leave work feeling so much more rewarded, right, than if they had stood back all day with their arms crossed worrying about everything going on and not engaging and
that's
policing
right.
children. Yeah.
That's right. Ooh, and the children feel it because it's
Yeah.
really just all about how you're approaching things in your energetically. So the kids, they have that sixth sense, that intuition. They're going to feel that whether the teacher is coming to the day with the energy of openness and presence or worry and stress and fear and arms crossed. And so, yeah, that's everything.
Chris, what I use is you've been with someone in the hospital or having outpatient surgery, and they use those pain charts. Where are you at on the pain chart? And it's different variations of a smile, of a a frown or smile or whatever.
Yes.
And I use that and I put it up on the screen when I'm talking about it, and I say, within 10 minutes of you being in your classroom, your children can tell us where you are on this chart.
Mm.
Absolutely, 100%. They know.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. That's profound. I love that. And it's a great reminder, Vernon. All right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. As always, I want to thank you for being here on the podcast today and for being my guest for this special episode 200. Um, I honor everything that you've given to this industry. And I know that you have provided so much laughter and joy as well. People just love you, and I do too. And so I just want to thank you for being here today.
Well, can I say the same? Kris, you gave me an opportunity. When you were doing your first summit, I reached out and said, "Are you really going to stand up the entire time and talk? Don't you want me to fill in for an hour or something on there?" And you said, "Yeah, you can do that, right?" And you gave me, and that was my first taste of being what I would call on a national stage. And I've been so impressed with you in this industry all these years because I really believe you've impacted not just your clients, but the industry, right? And that's
Mm,
something that our owners and directors should understand, that they don't only impact the children and the families of where they are working, where they are, but their entire community. And I believe that you have done that, and I appreciate your confidence in me, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I appreciate what you've done for a community that I genuinely love. I really feel as if this industry is in my DNA.
well, thank you so much, Vernon Mason. It's been a joy and a pleasure as always. And thanks to everybody for tuning in on this special episode 200 here on Childcare Rockstar Radio. And take care and God bless everybody. We'll see you next time. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please leave a review and share it with someone you know to help spread the word to friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, I've got a new video training that shows you how to add 6 figures or more of new revenue to your program in the next 60 days by improving your hiring and your enrollment systems. To watch my new video, just go to www.fixmyschool.com. That's fixmyschool.com. Thanks. Take care and God bless.